my project that I did for my capstone was a Lyons Park BioBlitz. My overall goal, when I started out this capstone, or this process of becoming a certified teacher through National Geographic, I wanted to get kids outside. Even in our rural Nebraska communities, my students are not going outside and exploring, so I wanted them to explore nature and get excited about things in nature. And so as I started thinking about what I was going to do for this, I started thinking about those things within the framework. I wanted my students to display a curiosity as well as a responsibility for those things in nature that they start interacting with. I wanted them to hit the skills of observation, collaboration, and communication, being interacting with each other just as if they would interact with each other if they had a good juicy piece of gossip about their friends. I wanted them to display that same excitement when it came to the things of science and being outside. And lastly, as far as the knowledge I wanted them to attain, I wanted them to learn about the things of the natural world. I wanted them to interact with that stuff. I wanted them to see the ecology concepts that we're learning within our unit within first quarter. And then I wanted them to see where they and humans play a role in that, how we interact at the local, the regional, as well as the global level with those things. So I chose to do a BioBlitz. The Lyons Park was a natural choice because it's located only about half a mile away from the school, right along that Logan Creek river valley. And within that park there's a lagoon. So to prepare for this, one thing I instantly realized is I was going to need someone with a boat. I contacted Tony Barada, fish biologist through the Nebraska Game and Parks, who is responsible for monitoring the lagoon, which is located in our park, and stocking it with fish. One of the things that my students really struggle with is understanding aquatic ecology concepts. They get grasslands and prairies when I start to teach it to them in 7th grade and many of the terrestrial ecosystems, but they have a hard time with the aquatic stuff. We're land lovers here in Nebraska. We have rivers and streams. We have a ton of groundwater. And I want them to understand the dynamics of those abiotic and biotic things and interact with them. And so as we started to forge forward in this BioBlitz, first of all, Mr. Barada, who is an alumnus of Lyons Decatur Public Schools, was more than happy to volunteer his time, expertise, and equipment to come and do a total fish population assessment within our lagoon and have the students be involved with that. And so I decided to start building my students' background into those things by assigning them each their own expert fish. Something that was native to Nebraska, but not necessarily in a lake or lagoon. But I wanted them to start understanding the requirements, the ranges of tolerances each of those fish had for abiotic and biotic things, and how they interacted within the communities that they existed. And so we started doing case studies that we found on the internet. We started exploring other water sources, the Ogallala Aquifer and Ogallala-fed streams, such as the Dismal River, versus rivers that are primarily runoff rivers, such as the Platte River or the Missouri River, and making those comparisons. And it was a very exciting thing. They built one of my goals this year professionally is to have my students creating more artwork. And so those students actually built an aquatic food web out in my hallway using their artwork that had little foldables that would explain the descriptions of their fish and their requirements. And then students were able to read those as they walked by, and parents. It was a very exciting thing, and actually as different seasons came about, became kind of an entertaining and engaging thing with the ways in which they actually dressed up their fish. So the day of the BioBlitz, what did we do? It was 3/4 of the day down in the Lyons Park. Those students, when they went down, I had a mobile lab completely set up with microscopes within the picnic shelter. Tony Barada and I had met the night before and set out D-nets to be able to collect 3 different locations within the park. And as those students were put into 3 different groups, they had rotations in which, if they were not with Tony collecting data on length and weight, species of fish, and number of each species of fish, they were out collecting insects, taking pictures with their phones, collecting plant specimens, taking pictures of various aquatic non-fish species, and then they were also required to do several illustrations of samples that they brought back to the microscopes to look at them under those microscopes. All of those photos that they took were shared via Google Drive so that we were able to share and discuss those things the day after the event, and grades were given accordingly. They were also required to keep a complete data sheet of all the data that they kept on those fish. So it was an extremely successful day. In addition to that, students got to talk with Tony about what it means to be a fish biologist and the types of things that he does within his job for the Nebraska Game and Parks. After kind of close to the event, I decided this is too good of a deal only to expose my biology students to, so I invited my 7th graders to come down at the end of the day and spend half an hour with Tony as the last net was being unloaded, and then give him the opportunity to be able to discuss with them his job as a biologist. It was extremely exciting, extremely engaging, and I can't wait to do it next year and to expand it. I'm right now finishing my geoinquiry process studies, and I'm getting very excited to have the students develop their own geoinquiry, potentially down in the park or dealing with topics in Nebraska water. So thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.